Hello students, hope you all are doing great. Today we are going to discuss concept 2 of moon and artificial satellites chapter. In this concept we will discuss about the phases of the moon and the landing on the moon. So here we go. Dear children, first of all just tell me, what do you mean by the phases of the moon? Yes, the day to day changes in the shape of the moon as seen from the earth are called the phases of the moon. I repeat, the day to day changes in the shape of the moon as seen from the earth are called the phases of the moon. Dear children, but do you know why do we see different phases of the moon? Okay, children, the moon, as you know, itself just does not generate light. It is lit by the sun. And as the moon orbits the earth, the portion of illuminated moon that we see changes, giving rise to the phases of the moon. I hope it is clear to you all. Children, we can even say that the revolution of the moon around the earth gives rise to different phases of the moon, as you can see in the picture. Children, there are five different phases of the moon: new moon, crescent moon, half moon, gibbous moon, and the full moon. Children, we will discuss about each phase in detail. So let us just start with the new moon phase. Children, when the moon is in between the earth and the sun, you cannot see the moon at all. This is called the new moon phase. Children, it is dark on the new moon night as the moon is completely hidden. Now moving to the next phase, which is the crescent moon. As the moon moves further, you can see a small sunlit portion of the moon. This is called the crescent moon. You can clearly see in the picture how the moon looks in this phase. Children, now moving to the next phase, which is the half moon phase. When the sunlit portion becomes bigger, you can see half of the moon. This is called the half moon phase. Moving further, we have the gibbous moon. When you see more than half of the moon, it is called the gibbous moon. At last, we can see the full moon phase. Children, when moon reaches the farthest side of the earth from the sun, you see complete moon. It is called the full moon phase. So, children, these were the five phases of the moon. I hope you all will be able to recall. They were new moon, crescent moon, half moon, gibbous moon, and the full moon. Now, moving further, children, do you know what is waxing or waning? Have you ever heard these terms? Okay, children, let me explain this to you all. Children, the increasing size of the lighted part of the moon, which we see from the earth, is called waxing. For example, from the new moon, we were able to see the crescent, half, gibbous, and finally the full moon phase. So it is clearly visible that the lighted part of the moon, which is visible from the earth, was increasing. So this increasing size of the lighted part of the moon is called waxing. And children, after this, the cycle reverses and the size of the moon decreases again. So this decreasing size of the lighted part of the moon is called waning. You can see in the picture that after the full moon, the moon again moves to gibbous, then half, then crescent, and finally the new moon phase. So you have to understand this, children, that while taking the complete round of the earth, moon completes both the waxing and the waning cycle. And that is how you can see different phases of the moon. For example, in this picture, you can see from the new moon, if we start, moon moves to the waxing crescent. Then First quarter, then waxing gibbous, then the full moon, and finally the lighted part starts decreasing. We come to waning gibbous, then the last quarter, waning crescent, and finally the new moon phase. I hope, children, it is clear to you all. And in case if you're having any doubt, we can take it in the live class. Now, children, moving to the landing on the moon. I know this topic is very interesting for you all. So we'll take it now. Children, do you know who were the first men to go to the moon? Yes, children, you're correct. They were Michael Collins, Neil Armstrong, and Edwin Aldrin. And children, the first spacecraft to land men on the moon was the US Apollo 11. It took off in July 1969 and traveled through space for 3 days before landing on the moon. Children, as we all know that there is no air on the moon, so the astronauts needed to be protected and they wore special space suits, which you can see in the picture. And obviously the space suits will have oxygen cylinder because there is no oxygen on the moon. Children, uh, the first men who stepped on the moon was Neil Armstrong. And children, uh, it was on July 20th, 1969 when he stepped on the moon. And as we all know that there were three men on Apollo 11, Neil Armstrong, Michael Collins, and Edwin Aldrin. So Michael Collins, he stayed in the command module which orbited the moon, whereas Neil Armstrong and Edwin Aldrin, they stepped out and they brought rock samples and soil to the earth. And the scientists, they got a lot of information about the moon from these samples. Children, this landing on the moon was followed by many more successful missions to the moon. So that's all about the first mission to the moon, children. Now I have some more questions for you all. I hope you all know some of the answers. Just tell me, who was the first to travel in space? Okay, children, it was a dog named Laika, which was sent to the space first, as you can see in the picture. Okay, then the next question which I have for you all is, who was the first man to go to the space? Yes, you're correct, children. Yuri Gagarin was the first man to go to the space. Now, the next question for you is, who was the first woman to go to the space? Okay, children, she was Valentina Tereshkova. She was the first woman to go to the space. I hope you know this answer now. Who was the first Indian man to go to the space? You're right, children. Rakesh Sharma was the first Indian man to go to the space. Then, who was the first Indian woman to go to the space, children? Yes, Kalpana Chawla was the first Indian woman to go to the space. So, children, that's all for this concept today. I have some questions for you all. You can try to answer these questions orally to test your own knowledge. The first question is, differentiate between waxing and waning. Who was the first woman to go to the space? Name the spacecraft which took the first three astronauts to moon. And last question is, name the first men who stepped on the moon. So that's all for today, children. Thank you so much. See you all in my next class. Till the time, have a good day.